Good morning, my artsy friends. Happy Monday. Welcome to our regularly scheduled Monday morning live. My name is Ken, your thrifty apprentice. Can't talk all of a sudden. And I'm so happy that you all have taken time out of your busy schedule to join me here. Now, there's going to be a review going down of the Utrecht artist professional gouache in today's live. And hopefully, we will get around to doing a quick illustration that I will later be turning into the cover of one of the upcoming journals I will be releasing, but that's neither here nor there. That is the project that I would like to get to. We are still in the heart of the Thrifty Cheap Art Challenge, which runs throughout the month of September. Now, today is the 15th, so we are literally halfway through the month. And if you are keeping up with the prompts, then you should be at the point where you're working on crystal, which would have been day 15 and 16. Unless you are like some artists and you have gone ahead and worked out pretty much all of them and posted them. If you have, be rest assured that I am keeping up with all of the posts and I am tallying all of the submissions. I just have to say I'm a little overwhelmed. Although there's only about 5 or 6 people that I see consistently posting, I do mean that they are consistently posting. They are really working out these prompts. And I have to say thank you all so much for, taking the time to join me in this challenge and participating. If you are not and you've never heard of it, this is the Thrifty Cheap Art Challenge. It runs throughout the month of September. This is the fifth annual Cheap Art Challenge that I've done. Long story short, it goes this way. You get 15 prompts instead of 30, giving you 2 days per prompt to work out whatever you want to work out around that word. You can use whatever medium you want to use. You can illustrate on whatever surface you want to illustrate on. The only thing to keep in mind, the only rule that matters is that you keep the products you use budget and economical so that they fall within the cheap art realm. Um, what you consider budget and economical will definitely be sort of an individual thing. Just, don't use products that cost $100. You cannot, it's skating the rules just a little bit. And each submission I take tally of, and each submission counts as one submission into the grand prize giveaway, which will be a 12 count of Faber Castell Eco Grip watercolor pencils, a 12 count of Prismacolor Premier soft core botanical color pencils, a 4 pack of Artegra synthetic squirrel round brushes, a pack of 100% cotton watercolor paper, and a set of Kuretake Genza Tambe Aurora granulating watercolors. So all of that is a part of the grand package giveaway. So check out everything over on Instagram. You will find links for the socials in the video description of pretty much any Thrifty Apprentice video here on YouTube. You can check out all of the rules over there. We're only halfway through the month. It's still plenty of time to submit one or as many illustrations as you would like. And keep in mind that the prompt list is just a suggestion. You don't necessarily have to paint what's on the prompt list. The whole point is to just get you to create, paint, illustrate, draw, whatever it is that you do. So if you haven't checked that out, do take time to check it out. And at the end of the month, we will be having a flip through of everything that I've created for the Cheap Art Challenge, as well as the announcement of the grand prize winner. Today, we are taking a look and we are reviewing the Utrecht artist gouache, which, as you know, I have two sets of those gouache. I did combine both of these into one palette in order to test. We've already done an unboxing of these in a previous live or video. Can't remember which one it was, but it's on the channel. So we're going to kind of skate over the whole unboxing process and just touch on those things that are most important. And then we'll jump into looking at swatches and actually talking about the quality of the gouache from my perspective. Now, from the top of this live, let me please make this announcement. I did not purchase this gouache. I won this gouache in a giveaway sponsored by Utrecht and Blick Art Supplies. So if that makes any difference to you, you should know that right away. Secondly, I will also state that anything I say in this live will be based on my painting style and my experience as a reviewing product, as a reviewer of products and art supplies over the last 5 to 6 years now. So, in case any of that matters to you, you may just want to take everything I say with a grain of salt. However, I will state that no matter what influencer, what YouTuber, what product reviewer you watch, keep in mind that all of their opinions are based on their experience. And just because one thing does or doesn't work for me does not mean that it will or it won't work for you. Okay. All right. So jumping in. Here we have both the 6 tube introductory set as well as the 8 tube mixing set. So as you can see, both of the front of the boxes do give you some similar feel. There are a couple of things like here you have the CL stamp of approval, but here you have the AP stamp of approval. It does let you know that these products conform to the ASTM D4236 regulation as well as the ASTM 5724 regulation, in case that type of information matters to anyone. Now, this is a company that has been around since 1949. It's based out of Brooklyn, New York. So this is an American-made product. That's something else that I want to throw out there in case it matters to you one way or the other. As you can see, you're going to get illustrations on the front. This is almost kind of the same thing, a prisma, a sort of gem-shaped rainbow prisma here, and then gems that are in the primary rainbow. So they're playing off of the same imagery there. Tubes, and then here you have 14 milliliter tubes. So let's flip these over on the back. And you're going to get pretty much the same information, just a few differences in the layout. Now, this is made in the US with global sourced materials. So they're letting you know, although that is made in the US, that does not mean that everything in this package, in this product, was made in the US. Okay. Now, this is Uptrek Manufacturing LLC, Brooklyn, New York. It gives a phone number, uh, 800 number for customer service, I'm assuming, as well as the website link, Uptrek Artist Gouache, Introductory Set, Mixing Set. Uh, Painted by Don Wheaton. So I'm going to assume they mean like the illustrations on the front of the box. As we stated earlier, there is the AP and CL stamps of approval. Now, here on both of these, you're getting a 100% satisfactory guarantee. For more details, visit uptrick.com /guarantee. That's on both of them. Now, this one has a warning on it: may be harmful if swallowed. Exposure may cause harm to developing fetus. Contains cadmium. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. So it does give you all of the warnings. Do not spray apply. This product contains cadmium, a chemical known to the state of California to cause cancer by means of inhaling. Okay, so let's talk about that. So if you're not walking around like sniffing your paints, don't apply these through like an air gun or airbrush. You're not like mixing your paints into the water and then for some forsaken reason drinking it. As long as you take care and caution, using cadmiums and cobalts should not affect you. Just be pet cautious. Make sure that if you're using something with cadmium or cobalts in it, you're not leaving your mixing water around, your rinsing water around, especially if you have small animals, because could fatally, possibly be fatal to them. But just take care, be a responsible artist, and you shouldn't have any problems. Okay. It says that it's perfect for artists of all levels. This introductory set delivers exceptional opacity, high pigment loads, and smooth blending capabilities. So we will get into pigment content during this live. For those of you that does not matter to, I understand, but there is also part of my audience that it does matter to. So we will touch on that just a bit, just so you will know. Okay, in the introductory set, you're getting a permanent white, a primary yellow, a primary red, green, medium green, primary blue, and ivory black. So I think it's funny. They call this the introductory set, yet it has all of the primary mixing colors in it. So in my head, this should have been like the mixing set, and maybe this should have been the introductory set. But I don't work for Uptrick, and I don't get to make those decisions. But you do get your primary colors, including a white and a black and a convenience green in the introductory set. In the mixing set, you're going to again get a permanent white and an ivory black. You hit a cad lemon, a brilliant yellow, a rose tyrant, flame red, turquoise blue, ultramarine blue. So you do actually in the mixing set get a pretty all around primary uh, triad in there that would be great for mixing. And I love the fact that it has the turquoise blue in it. And of course, when it comes to gouache, you could never have too much white and you could never have too much black. So I was okay with the fact that I got two whites and two blacks based on both sets. That didn't bother me at all. Now, let's flip these over, take a look at the tubes. As I stated earlier, you're going to get 14 milliliter tubes, which depending on the brand you purchase, good thing, bad thing. And the reason I say that is because most artists and designer gouache comes in bigger tubes anyway. The only time you're really getting like an 8 milliliter tube or maybe something smaller than that, well, I'll take that back because Holbein, I'm pretty sure comes in 5 milliliter tubes. But for the most part, professional and designer gouache typically comes in bigger tubes. You find your more budget and economical sets that come in your smaller tubes. So just FYI. All right. So as you can see here, nice aluminum tube with a screw off cap that is super easy. I didn't have any issues with screwing the lids on and off, even after panning the wash. You know how sometimes you can pan something and that product will dry around the neck and you'll screw the top back on and it can become hard to put it on and take it off. I haven't experienced any of that and I've opened these tubes a many a times. Now, as you can see, there is no foil covering the neck. Another sign that is on more of a designer artist level versus a student level because you're not getting that medicine tube type of presentation. All right. It is wrapped in Uptrex label. Each label is color coded and color swatched to go along with the color that it's representing. You'll get the color name, of course, the company name, announcing that it's artist gouache. And we are going to talk about the difference between artist gouache and designer gouache in just a second as well. It gives you the series and it lets you know that it contains 14 milliliters. If you flip the tube over on the back, you are going to get the pigment number. You're going to get the vehicle, meaning the binder that carries the pigment. In this case, is gum Arab. You'll get the light fast rating, which is important to some people and also helps distinguish the difference between designer gouache and artist gouache. Excuse me. And then you're also going to get the transparency rating, which in most cases, a gouache is supposed to be opaque. But again, we're going to talk about the difference between artist and designer in just a minute. It lets you know that it's made in the USA and it gives you the same uptrick information that the back of the box did. There's a UPC code to let you know that the paints are sold open stock, so you can buy them separately by the tube versus in a set. Although most times, especially when you're being introduced to a brand, it is probably a little bit better to buy it in a set, because sets tend to have the more useful colors, especially when it comes to like introductory sets and mixing sets, and you're getting it for a set price versus an individual tube price. And individual tubes can range from the low end of the scale to the very high end of the scale, depending on what series that particular paint is in. That's why I said we'll talk about that a little bit more specifically when we get to talking about price more in detail. All right, so that's pretty much the presentation of the gouache. You're going to get that across every single tube. Pretty straightforward. The boxes are corrugated. They are flip top. You have in this particular one, I'm noticing that they put the extra cardboard in to kind of help hold the gouache in place. And each of the boxes do have a dividing lip that lifts in order to kind of help keep the tube safe. And all of this is just box presentation, but it does matter when it comes to like shipping. All right, so let's move on to looking at them being panned. Now you can pan your gouache many different ways. I choose to pan my gouache in these acrylic palettes that I find on Temu, and I do it for two reasons. One, these palettes come with a silicone insert on top, which helps force it to be airtight. That's one. Secondly, it comes with wells that literally come all the way up flush to the lid when it's closed. Why is this important? Let's just say I had a gouache that did dry down and crack and break up. This is going to help prevent that gouache from jiggling around and moving around in my palette and one color contaminating the other. So those are the reasons that I use this type of palette. Now, as you can see, I panned, excuse me, the gouache up in rainbow order, um, and for the most part, there was no issue with the panning process. The consistency of the gouache was pretty much the same across every single tube. They have this sort of semi-liquidy feel to them. They all flowed out well. There was no binder or pigment separation. I filled each one of these up to the top, and as you can see, they do dry down quite a bit. The water evaporates from the gouache and it shrinks down quite a bit. There is not much cracking in these. I need you to note that these paints, and this has been panned for a while, the paints they do evaporate and dry down, but they don't break and crack up in the pan. And these have been panned for, I know, 2 weeks plus. And there again lies a big difference between artist and designer gouache. I keep saying we're going to get to it, and we are. I just want to touch on the main points of this particular gouache before I start talking about anything else. Nice dynamic color range. Let's be clear. Just from the primary mixing set, you actually had enough paint to pretty much paint whatever you want, especially if you're someone who's used to mixing your own colors. Now, if you're someone who's used to painting from convenience colors, then maybe the introductory set would be something that's a little bit better for you because you are going to get primaries that you can mix from, along with a few convenience colors, and it just, maybe an overall better set for you. But for those who mix the primary, what set is this? The introductory set. The introductory set was really, really good, my friends. Well, all of the paints are really good, but I just feel like based on the way that they're set up, the colors that you get in the introductory set, especially if you're just looking to test the paints out and you are one who likes to mix, this is good. I have to say that from the jump. All right. So yeah, no issues with any of that. Panning it drying down, no cracking. So at this point, I'm gonna check the comment section. All right, so let's take a look at some swatching. Let's get into the good stuff, the nitty gritty of it all. All right, so please note that I have not transferred any pigment information to my swatch sheet, and I did that for live reasons. I will transfer that information after this particular live. But I've done some testing here just to kind of see surface level how they work because you truly never know how a product is going to perform until you actually paint with it. You can swatch all day long, you can test all day long, but until you actually paint with it, in my opinion, let me add that. Let me state that first. In my opinion, unless you paint with it, I don't feel like you can really just get a good grasp of the product, but maybe that's from a perspective because I review products. All right. So I put down my alcohol marker line here, of course, to test opacity as I normally do. And then I swatched out each one of them first in a watery, kind of watered down, more watercolor swatch. And then I went back and layered a glaze with masked tone. Each of the colors are truly consistent. They have a really nice matte finish to them. The colors are bright. There is not a huge shift from what I noticed from wet to dry, even when you are using them in a more opaque watercolor form. As you start to build them, the opacity and has this velvety matte beautiful finish to it. I have to say, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. I like the gouache. I like the gouache, and you guys know that I'm a huge fan of Shinhan designer professional gouache. So these were really nice to use, and we're going to get to pigment information in a minute. But it was also really nice to know that they had very stable and reliable pigments in them. Okay, so you do get the opacity. Of course, the pigments in gouache are ground to be bigger than it pigments in watercolor, and that's what helps to get that opacity along with the mixing of whites or chalk or whatever other ingredients they're putting into their formula. I will have to say that these are not chalky by any means. As I said, they give you a really nice kind of velvety matte finish. They layer really well. Hold this up. I don't know if the light is doing it any justice, but I just want you guys to really see how pretty that those colors are. Now, between both of them, both sets, there's a really nice range here. But I would have to say, as I said, I kind of hit on this earlier, even if you were to buy one set or the other individually, I don't think you would be doing yourself an injustice. I feel like maybe the introductory set may be targeting artists that are a little bit more experience with gouache, a little bit more experience with mixing, but it could also be targeting a beginner that's interested in learning how to mix paints. Whereas the mixing set, and it's the names that kind of throw me off, the mixing set has more convenience colors in it. You're still going to get the primaries for mixing. So I feel like maybe a beginner would either or, it doesn't matter. They're both beautiful. So here we did some color mixing. I used the primary red, the primary yellow, and the primary blue. I simply just used that set in order to make the color wheel. Got a pretty desaturated orange, but it's a very recognizable and noticeable secondary color. The blue and the yellow gave me a pretty neutral, medium tone green, which I thought was really funny because it's actually different from the medium green that's in the set. The two mix together, but of course, you could probably match the one that's in the set by mixing your yellow and blue based on the ratio or one paint or the other that you use in that mixture. So, very achievable and very colors. I'm sorry, great colors for achieving good mixing. That's what I'm trying to say. So here I used the primary red and the primary blue, gave me a very vibrant, beautiful, deep violet tone. And then all three colors, again, using different ratios of each one, I was able to achieve a brown and a more desaturated black chocolate brown leaning color, which I'm pretty sure had I kept pressing with blue, I probably could have got that even cooler. Here's the thing, the primary, and most somebody probably already knows what I'm about to say. The primary blue that's in the mixing set, I mean the introductory set, I wish it was ultramarine instead. That's a personal preference. That's not to say, as I've said before, this set is fine like it is. I just wish the ultramarine was actually in the set with the primary red and the primary yellow. Simply because that warmer color I feel helps to make more saturated secondary colors, but that's just a personal opinion. So I did a little salt test here. And there, as you can see, the secondary colors came out beautifully. I got a consistent lay down, no skipping, no funny business about the gouache. It dried down consistently across every color, including the mixes, that velvety matte finish. Here I did a salt test, and ironically enough, they didn't react as well to salt as I thought they would. But then I had to keep in mind that this is not watercolor. This is gouache, and the pigments are ground bigger. So it's not going to have the same reaction to salt as watercolors will, although it will have a reaction to salt. And, to kind of combat that, if you wanted to use salt with gouache, you could simply just use it in an opaque watercolor form. Make sure that you're using it in really wet washes, but it will work. As you can see, there's not going to be much flow. Again, we are talking about a product that has a heavy pigment particles in it. So you get a little bit, I got a little disbursement there, but there wasn't like, they're not going to gush and ooze all over the paper, even if you're using them in an opaque watercolor form. But you can get some movement, you can get some flow, and it wasn't anything that I was either pleased or displeased with. Here I kind of blended all of the colors together after I got them dried down in order to see how they were going to look stacked up next to each other and whether those wet into wet washes would just kind of blend on the paper and give me some natural, beautiful secondaries. And if two or three colors ran together, maybe even uh, tertiary colors. So, okay, the only thing I really got to bleed was the red into the, what yellow was that? I want to say it's the cad lemon. Um, and I got a little bit of an orange right in here from that. But for the most part, the colors kind of stayed where I put them, although they were really wet when I was using them. I just, gouache just has those different characteristics to it. And those characteristics can also different from gouache to gouache based on brand. But I've really found myself enjoying using these paints. Now I'm gonna do a lift test with you guys really quick, which I typically say to do with you. It is a Thrifty Apprentice review tradition to do this part on camera. Let's see, where are we? We are 37 minutes in. I'm gonna go ahead and get through this a little bit quicker, so then we can look and see if we want to paint. Can't be on too long. That don't mean we couldn't get a quick illustration done. Now I am really mixing all those colors together, and you can see it's getting desaturated and neutralized and mixing them together. I'm using a synthetic squirrel, and this is a cellulose. No, I'm sorry. I'm using a synthetic golden taklon brush to do the scrubbing with, and this is a cellulose paper that this is done on. So as you can see, I really did not get back to white per se. Um, and I don't want to do too much because again, this is a cellulose paper and I don't want to tear the paper or damage it. So man, on the lifting there, whatever, which I'm pretty sure all paints have a certain dye content to it. Those pigments and those dyes together are definitely going to stain. It looks to be more heavy in the yellow, red tones, which I have noticed to be the case in most cases. And then your cooler tones tend to lift a little bit better going into sedimentary colors. But this particular set neither have a brown, which is probably one of the only drawbacks I feel. Now, of course, you can mix your own brown, right, and then work from that. But sometimes it helps to just have a single pigment brown. It just helps to make life easier. So, that's the second thing that if I had to change about either of these sets, is that there would be a brown, specifically maybe in the mixing set, which I still feel should be the introductory set, but it's my opinion. All right, so that's that. Let's talk about pigment information real quick. So pretty much every single one of these are single pigment colors. I do not believe I ran across one dual pigment. Let's see, the turquoise is actually got three pigments in it, and was it the medium green? I believe it was. Yes, the medium green has three pigments in it, but I think everything else was, yes, everything else is single pigment. So let's just run through this really quick for my artist information nerds because you matter too. The pigment numbers for the white is PW6. It is titanium white. It has a light fastness of 1. So I'm assuming that their light fast scales go from 1 to 3, with 3 being the most light fast. 1 being the most light fast and 3 being the least light fast. Next up is the primary red, which is PB19 Queen Red. It has a light fastness of 1. Primary yellow is PY3, light fastness of 1. Primary blue is PP15. This is phthalo blue, and ironically enough, this is phthalo blue red shade, which is not something common in set. So I thought that that was really interesting. But this is phthalo blue red shade, and it is has a light fastness of 1 as well. Ivory black, which is PBK9, and it has a light fastness of 1. So basically, it's saying that pretty much this entire set, with the exception of the medium green, which has a light fastness of 2. It's a little less light fast because it's made up of 3 different pigments, being your PY1, which was your primary yellow, your PY4, which is a different variation of PY3, the pigment that makes up primary yellow, and then PG7, which is phthalo green blue shade, which is, yeah, PG7 phthalo green blue shade. So all 3 of those pigments make up this medium green, which is why it would be considered a little bit less light fast than the rest of the ones in that particular set. So in this particular set, we won't have to cover the ivory black or white because we've done that already. So we'll start with the flame red, which is CAD red. It is PR108. They're just calling it flame red. Has a light fastness of 1. Rose Tyron, which is PR81:5. Now, I've never seen that pigment number until I got this paint. I had to go look it up. I had to look it up on handprint, and according to handprint, it is probably one of the more fugitive pigments that you can run across. And then I paid attention to the light fastness, which is 3, which means that Uptrek was being very honest about the pigment that they used here. It is not the most light fast. On their scale, it falls into what would be considered the fugitive range. But let's be clear, every single set of paints contains a fugitive pigment. I've never seen it not happen. So that's neither here nor there. Cadmium lemon is PY37, which is basically cad yellow lemon. So you have that light fastness of 1, should be. Yeah, it is. Then there is Brilliant Yellow, which is PY37, which is CAD yellow, light fastness of 1. Next in that lineup would be Turquoise Blue. Now, ironically enough, it has a light fastness of 1, and then I had to pay attention to the pigment makeup, and I understand why they put it there. It's made up of PB15 phthalo blue green shade, PG7 phthalo green red shade, I'm sorry, phthalo green blue shade, and PW6 titanium white. So all 3 of those are super light fast pigments. So I guess they're saying mixing super light fast pigments together would give you a light fast color. Common sense kicks in, and I guess I would go with that logic. Ultramarine blue, PB29, should be, of course, and has a light fastness of 1. So you get pretty light fast colors. Let me throw this out here now. You have heard me say over and over and over the difference between designer gouache and artist gouache. Perfect time to bring this up. So here I have a set of Shinhan designer gouache. I have a set of Turner designer gouache. And then I have Uptrick, which is an artist gouache. Well, Thrifty, what's the difference? Well, the difference really boils down to what they're designed for and the pigment makeup. In designer's gouache, it was never formulated to be something that was meant to be light fast and to last forever and ever and ever. Designer's gouache was originally formulated and released for just that, designers, in order to paint an illustration that was going to be reproduced in some shape, form, or fashion. Therefore, there was never any need or necessity to include super light fast colors when it came to designer gouache, which is why you typically find designer gouache may use what people would consider more fugitive colors in it than an artist gouache is. So, an artist gouache is a gouache that was designed for what? Artists. Therefore, formulated knowing that there would be people who were looking for light fastness, were looking for consistency, was looking for something that they may not reproduce, but instead hang on a wall, where it may be exposed to light. Therefore, artist gouache tends to use, on a normal basis, more light fast pigments and colors in it than a designer gouache will. There's the difference between the two, the major difference between the two. Of course, based on the brand and the company that's formulating it, it could be differences in the actual formula itself, the vehicle, the substrate that the pigment is attached to, but the main difference between the two is that one is designed to be light fast so that you can do museum condition hanging, and the other is designed for reproduction, which is why you will find that this one may dry down a little bit harder, may crack a little bit more. Let me show you what I mean. See here with this turner, you can see that I had several of them crack. I mean, not as bad as like your student grade or economical gouache wheel, but you definitely had some cracking going on here. Even here with the shin hand, as much as I love this gouache set, make no mistake, I had cracking happen with these because just based on the way that they're formulated. But you'll see here with the up trick, there has been no cracking in any of the colors at all. None. So those are the differences between an artist and a designer gouache. And for those people who always ask, why are you guys always talking about light fastness and pigments and this and that? Because things like that do tend to matter to certain people. Because now that you know the difference, maybe you realize what you've always wanted is an artist gouache instead of a designer gouache. Or maybe now you've realized that, hey, a designer gouache is really all you really care about and need because you're not thinking about light fastness and all those type of things. KK? All right, let's get this out the way and let's look at the things that I have actually illustrated with them in order to get the experience to feel like I can offer any type of opinion on them. Now, typically I will do one or two illustrations here. I ended up doing three just to test different things. So each one of these you will be able to find on the channel. Back when we originally got the gouache open and canned and dried down, one of the first things that we did with them was this sort of water boat dock scene. I think it was in Alive. I'm pretty sure it was in Alive here on YouTube. So you can definitely go and catch this and check it out if you want to. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple, but the gouache works so beautifully. And one of the things that I loved about this particular one is that right away I was met with a mixing challenge because there is no brown in either of those sets. So I had to mix everything, um, all of the colors used for the dock itself, and it was a really cool experience. We had fun. Hopefully some of you painted along, and if you didn't, definitely go back and check it out and paint along. Now, what I noticed here, because this was done on, what paper did I do this on? Does anybody remember? I do not remember. I want to say it's a 100% cotton paper, whatever it is. That's what I want to say. Beautiful transition of colors from wet to dry. I did not lose much saturation at all, and I just feel like the colors really held up really well. Um, and they're gouache, they're opaque. So you're able to build and layer colors. Gouache is pretty forgiving, so it helps you to kind of skirt around your mistakes a little bit easier than watercolor would. The second thing was this poppy illustration, again done here on the channel. You can find all of the watercolor calendar months in the 2025 watercolor calendar playlist if you're interested in watching each month. I think the only one missing is April because I did April in the Creation Station as a Creation Station exclusive. But yeah, so that is the poppy that was done. Didn't have to do much mixing here, but the colors layered beautifully. I was able to use them in a really watery form in order to get my base layer. And then with each subsequent layer, I use less water in order to use the gouache in its more mass or mint tone, should I say, in order to build each layer, build opacity, get into details in order to kind of emulate or simulate those folds and those ripples that would be in one of the petals. Enjoyable time. Love the way that I was able to get the center sort of detailed without being too detailed about it. It was just an overall really cool paint experience. And if I'm not mistaken, we used the Utrecht gouache and a couple of watercolor pencils in order to create this. Again, another one you can definitely go check out on the channel. They work well with the whole splattering technique. As you can see, even being watered down in order to do the splattering, you can still see those splatters pretty well, which kind of, speaks to the opacity of the actual paints. All right. And then there was this illustration that was done in the creation station of a spool of a couple of different spools of thread laying beside each other. Now, this was a mixed media project. It was done on 140-pound rough cotton watercolor paper, and it was done with the Utrecht gouache and Posca colored pencils. Now, I showed you this earlier, which actually came off of this block. It was painted over here in the corner. Then I pulled the page off the block and cut out the actual illustration. But I was basically testing out one of the watercolor blocks I've made. I don't particularly like the glue, so I'm going to go back to the drawing board and try it again. But of course, I'm going to use this up, and I think it turned out really well. The only what I didn't like about this illustration had absolutely nothing to do with the actual gouache. The gouache layer itself, which was the underpainting, went down beautifully. It worked really well for the shadows around each of the spools. Um, I even used the white gouache in order to paint the white part of the background because as I was doing other things, especially with some of the color pencils, I got some smudging on the white background. So after everything was said and done, I actually went back in with the white gouache from the set and kind of cleaned that area up to help eliminate some of that smudging. So it was really, really, really cool. This was a great combination. If you've never tried gouache and colored pencils together, give them a shot. Give them a shot. Maybe not on rough paper. Keep in mind that watercolor paper has tooth, is really textured, so it's going to wear down the medium of a colored pencil really quick. It's going to pull that pigment, that lay it down real quick because it's trying to fit down into all those bumps and those grooves. And in this case, I used rough, which is has even more texture than like a cold press or a hot press. So it was really eating the lid of my pencils up. But that was user error, not product error. And the gouache did an excellent job there. So those are the three illustrations that I painted. Overall, I like the gouache. Um, I think that in comparison to the other gouache that I have, the other professional gouache, should I say, that I have in my collection at the moment, it's a nice addition. It's nice to know that I have a choice that is more light fast than the other two. Now, don't get me wrong, I love both of these. Both Turner and Shinhan are wonderful gouaches. I'm not trying to sleep on those at all. I'm just saying that when it comes down to the formulation and the makeup of them, I'm happy to have something that would be considered a little bit more light fast and a little bit more light durable. Um, in case I decided to paint something that wasn't going to stay closed up in a sketchbook, in case I decided to paint something that I wasn't just doing to reproduce or to like make a sketchbook cover or something like that, which ironically enough is what we're going to be working on painting in today's video. All right, here we go with this star scale. If I had to give this paint a rating on a star scale of 1 to 5, this is probably the first product that I would give a 5. Can I believe I just said that? We have to talk about price, of course. We have to talk about price. I mean, we can't not talk about price. Now, I am giving of the product, the quality of the product, a 5. Now, when it comes to the 8 color mixing set, what did I do with it? When it comes to the 8 color mixing set, you are going to pay $44.91 um, plus tax, which I don't think is a bad price for 8 tubes of 14 milliliter, basically single pigment. No, this is six. Wait, mixing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So the mixing set, see, it throws me off every time. The mixing set, which has the 8 tubes, is $44.91, which I do not believe is a bad price for 8 tubes of 14 milliliter paints, all being basically single pigment with the exclusion of one that still mix from all light fast colors. I don't think that's a bad price, especially when you compare it against the fact that Shinhan runs somewhere in the 33, 34, $35 range. It can be a little bit higher, a little bit cheaper, depending on when you get it. Now, of course, they have how many colors was in it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And I think it ends up being 13 because they give you two whites or something of that nature. So it really just depends. Now here you do have uh, not all single pigment colors, a lot of single pigments. Most of them are, but you do have some convenience mixed colors in here, and you do have some colors in here that may be considered a little bit more fugitive than most of the colors that would be in this set. Same thing with the Turner. The Turner has a few more. The primaries, the red, yellow, and blue, if I'm not mistaken, are single pigment, and then the rest of them are kind of have dual, maybe triple pigments in it. But I would really need to go back and look at Turner just to make sure. So not a bad price for this set. It breaks down to somewhere in the neighborhood of what, $11 a tube, somewhere in that neighborhood. No, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 10 would be 80. No, that's not. No, that's nowhere near it. My math is way off. Somebody do the math for me. 8 tubes at $45. Throw it in the comment section for me. My mind just went crazy just then. All right. Then with the introductory set. Now this one, it was hard for me to find. Now this one was the price I quoted was from Amazon. This particular set I didn't really find on Amazon. I found their acrylic paints set of 6, but I couldn't find the gouache. And as far as looking it up online, uh, artist gouache 6 to what is it called? Intro set, $34 from what, Blick? Yeah, 34.89 at Blick, and you can get both sets at Blick. So you can get this is 34.89 at Blick, and this is going to be the introductory set that has the primary mixers in it with the convenience green, a white, and a black. So overall, not bad pricing. As you can see, the pricing was reduced from 34. So it's about a $10 difference to go from 6 tubes to 8 tubes. Either set, I don't think you would be a bad buy. I just think, more experience if you're trying to mix, go with the introductory set. If you're trying to do maybe less mixing, but understand that you will have to do some mixing, then go with the actual mixing set. Because again, no set has a brown in it, no set has a violet in it. So if you're looking for something that's going to have a bunch of convenience colors, neither of these sets is really going to fit that bill. However, they do sell them open stock, so you could always order them and build your own set from Blick or from Utrecht directly. Now, which brings me to the last thing I want to mention is we were talking about the series number earlier. Normally, series depict the release or the grade of quality that they have put into a particular tube of paint. You'll find that the higher the series number, Typically, the higher the series number, the more you're going to pay for that individual tube if you purchase it open stock, which is why if you go back to the beginning of the live, I said it's typically cheaper to purchase in a set than it is to purchase open stock. So like series one, as you see here on your primary yellow, meaning that whatever the price of this series is, it's probably going to be more affordable for this one tube of paint as it will be for, say, this tube of paint, which is a series three color. Not unless they do it backwards, where the higher the number is cheaper and the lower the number is higher. I don't see that often. I have seen it before, but I don't see it often. Typically, it's in order, and a series one would typically be a little bit more affordable than a series three tube. So like here with the turquoise blue, you have a series two. So between just these three, odds are you're going to pay a different price per tube for these three colors simply because they're in a different series. So that's something to keep in mind. And maybe something to, a little information you may want to know when you are shopping open stock for a tube of paint. All right. So let's see if there's any questions. And yeah, I definitely recommend the gouache. If you're looking for a nice gouache, hey, you're looking for a nice artist squash that's going to be, light fast and you care about that. Or even if you don't care about that and you're just looking for something that's going to be super brilliant, really, really velvety matte finish, really nice gouache that don't shift too much, colors mix really well and blend beautifully. Yeah, man, there's not much difference when it comes to when you start talking about the professional range of products. Um, the differences come down to technical background stuff that most people don't really care about. So, as I always say, you guys, if you already have a product that you're using and that you like, use it. Use it, okay? But there's my opinion on that particular product, just in case, in some shape, form, or fashion, you decide you want to add this gouache to your painting collection. There you go. So here I have a little scene sketched out. I'm thinking about the cover. So this is me in designer mode. So I kind of sketched out these kind of whimsical shaped birch trees because I did, what was it? Thrifty Cheap Art Challenge prompt the other day. It was suitcase, and it took me a minute to decide on what I was going to do. And ultimately, I ended up I give you guys a sneak peek at one of my challenges, which you can see them all over on Instagram anyway. So I guess it's not really a sneak peek if you follow me on Instagram. But so I did this birch tree kind of design in a suitcase. It was something different. I was kind of stuck. I wasn't really sure where to go with the actual illustration, with the actual prompt. I was like, what do I do for suitcase? And then I passed this like 10, 11-year old tutorial from the Frugal Crafter on doing loopings actually. And I was like, oh, that'll be cute. So of course I wasn't going to paint exactly what she painted. So I changed it up, did my own variation of it, and yeah, put it on a suitcase. So I was it was this that sparked this idea. I was like, okay, that would actually be cute on the front of a sketchbook. But I'm still gonna change it up just a little bit. But I'm just showing you where the idea for what I'm doing today came from. Right. So as I was saying earlier, I sketched on some whimsical tree shapes that are gonna be like birch trees. And got a little horizon back there. We're going to put some bushes. It's going to be a more mid-ground, foreground type of scene. A little sky area there. A lot of foreground, but it's going to be all kind of like flat grass, and we'll have like grass blades. I don't know. I really don't know, friends, where this is going to go. The only thing I've done to prep is to cut this paper down to the size that's going to fit the cover that I'm trying to make. And this is 117-pound cold press cellulose paper. This Canson graduate watercolor paper. And the reason I'm using it is because that 117-pound paper is very pliable. I use it a lot when I'm crafting, um, and it allows me to paint, protect the painting, and then use the painting to cover something. So that's why I like using that paper for this type of project. You already know what gouache I'm using, and I'm going to use a different assortment of brushes from golden techlins to golden to synthetic swirls. I'll just kind of call it out as I do it. All right, let's get this crack-a-lacking. Thank you so much for sharing, View. I appreciate it, my friend. So let's start out with what I do with the swatches. Because you guys know I'm not going to remember all those colors right off. I probably can, but just to be on the safe side, let's open that swatch book up over here. All right, so let's start with the sky. And I put down, you may be wondering, this is masking fluid that I've used to cover my trees. I'm painting birch trees, so I want to keep the trunks white as I do the background. So to prep for this live, I did go ahead and put down masking fluid earlier. Now, if you're someone who can paint around your illustration, what I'm about to do, what I'm about to do, you can literally pull out paper right now and get it done in whatever medium you want to. It's literally three big trees. That's the main focus. Everything else we're going to kind of make up on the spot, okay? So let's with my background here. I have two buckets of water. One is clean, one is for rinsing. I don't normally use masking fluid, but in this instance, because I knew I wanted to paint fast, and I'm going to wet down a little bit into my tree line there. If I happen to get some blue there, I'm not going to really worry about it. And because I'm painting with painting on a cellulose paper, I'm wetting my background. I'm going to make sure I have a sheen. I'm going to mix my color, and then I'm going to wet my background again if need be. Because sometimes it does require you to, wet your background twice. All right. Not sure if you can see that. I have a nice little sheen. No puddles though. No puddles, no puddles. Just make sure I got everything covered. All right. And then I'm going to go for primary blue. We're just going to use primary blue straight from the pan, and we are watering this down. We're using this in more of an opaque watercolor form. But I am going to make the wash very saturated. So although it's watery, it still has quite a bit of painting. I'm gonna start up here at the top. I'm tilting my paper. I want to make sure that I keep my darkest color at the top. I'll let that run down. And using a horizontal stroke, I'm going to move all the way down my paper until that paint runs completely out, even if I run into my tree line. Yep, just like that. Now this paper is going to have a buckling effect to it. Don't you worry yourself. I'm not, because I know that it's going to dry flat and beautiful. I'm going in for another pass. I wanted a little bit more saturation at the top. Now, I can make this really cartoony, pull out some white fluffy clouds in the background. Why not? Why not? Let's grab a paper towel here, and I'm going to scrunch it up and make some little clouds. Why not? Just keep in mind your clouds get skinnier as they go towards your horizon. Maybe even lighter. There. Let's just put a little texture in the background. Help lift out some color, give you a little cloud emulation here and there. we're going to really be keeping the focus on the foreground anyway. All right, let's move on. We'll give that time to dry. I may be grabbing a hair dryer or a heat tool. Now I'm going to try to lift some of that paint off the trunk. Um, Keeping in mind that I do have drawing gum on here, so the whole heat tool hair dryer thing. I wish I had one that had a cool setting, but I don't. All right, let's go with the foreground. I want a sap greenish color, so I think that this is the medium green, which is what's provided in the introductory set. Let's get that a little bit more sappy though. So let's grab some cad yellow here. Actually, that might be primary yellow. I think that's primary yellow. Yeah, let's stick with that. I like that range. It's not too lemony, but it's still um, lemon leaning. All right. And then let's grab some blue. Let's go with ultramarine. And we're going to slowly mix that in. There we go. I just want a more natural. I didn't really mix up much, did I? Let's try it again here. We had a base of the medium green. Okay. See if we can get this a little bit more saturated while we're working at it too. And then we have primary yellow. Take it more, give it more of a yellow undertone. And then we based in some ultramarine blue just to darken it and make it a little bit more natural looking. There we go. Let's roll with that. And I did not rinse my brush. I just dipped it directly into water. And I'm going to start at my horizon line. I'm going to kind of skip around that bush I have there. Now, there is not a yellow ochre in this set, okay? So I'm actually going to grab some of that cad yellow on its own. Because we do want the front warmer, right? Now, I have no idea where this painting is going. I'm just painting. I do know that it's going to have much more of a whimsical feel to it. That's the only thing I really know at the moment. I'm mixing some of that medium yellow directly in out of my pan. And I still feel like I can build a little bit more on this while we're still working wet into wet. So I'm going to grab, before everything completely dries, I'm going to grab a little ultramarine blue. I really want to go darker with darken some areas around the tree trunks, kind of shadow it a little bit because it's going to have, it's definitely going to have some shadows going down. All right, I think that's cool for a base. We'll let that dry. See what happens, whether we need to add anything else. I might glaze on. You know what? Let's do this. Are we going to put any leaves? I think we are. Let's do this yellow here. Let's mix all these yellows together. You're like thrifty, you're out your mind. No, I'm not. I promise. Let's splatter some texture on the bottom there. We're just building layers. That's all. Let's go with some green too. Let's get that. And let's introduce a red at this point. Let's go with primary red. It's got sort of a pinky undertone to it. All right. Let's see. Don't want that in my sky. Check that out. Get a little bit of splatter, and we're controlling those splatters. We're keeping it to the ground. We're kind of giving some indication of some falling leaves because that's what we're gonna have going on, I guess. Like I said, I'm just building the underpainting right now. So here I want a line of bushes back there. I do. Let's see. I'm gonna mix my green this time. I'll start with, still trying to stick to the colors I've been using. So I'm gonna use that primary yellow. We had a little primary blue going in the sky, so we'll mix that in. And then ultramarine because it makes everything clean. I don't know what's going on with me not mixing enough color today. Primary ultramarine and that's a beautiful kind of turquoisey color. Still feel like I didn't mix enough color. How about, I don't know what kind of foliage I want back there. Let's just work it out. Let's just work it out. Oh, didn't mean to go with that tree. I mean that bush, but oh well, it's there now. Yeah. Woo. So I just painted over my bush. That's okay. We'll pull it back out in a minute. Mm, I feel like that's okay. We'll go with that. I did not mix up enough paint. Oh no. Let's mix up some more. This time, let's make sure we mix enough. So I'm gonna start with a nice watery base so that I don't really have to do too much rinsing. I don't know why I started with that green, but I did, so oh well. Now I'll go with the blues. That'll be my base green. I'm doing it right this time. Now you guys see where it's gonna go. This time I'm gonna do it the right way. All right, that's good. That's base. It's cool. It'll push it back. Now let's mix a darker version of that same color. I think I want to do this in one whop and be done with it. I'm not gonna fuss with that tree line too much, so I just want to make sure I have the same color mixture in some shape, form, or fashion. Because you guys know I'm big on this whole thing called color harmony. All right, here we go. And I really want to darken it a little bit more. And since I don't think the ultramarine is really going to do it the way I want it to, I'm going to grab a little bit of that primary red that we mix into the background, and I'm going to put that in the mix. And it's going to darken the green. There we go. That's better. All right, let's try this whole thing again. And this time we're going to get more saturation in the color. Oh, I keep going over that little bush. That polo bush. That polo bush. Oh, jeez. There's no help for that polo bush. Okay, I'm dropping in darker greens here. At least it stands out, right? At least my polo bush is standing out. Foreground in. Foreground in. So let's see if I can. So I'm using a credit card scraper, and I'm starting from the bottom. And I'm doing something very unexpected here. This is not something normally something I do in the very background like that, but I don't know why all of a sudden I feel like it'll be cool, so I'm doing it. Mm, it's not bad actually. Now, if you just happen to be jumping on, please know that I have no idea where I'm going with this. I am just illustrating as I go, doing different techniques that I'm sharing with you guys. And I'm painting on really thin paper because it will actually be a cover for a sketchbook. I'm going to grab a smaller brush here and go into this darker color and just kind of base in on the bottom here. Now, what I did actually did damage the paper. Just know that. Um, so it's going to be, I'm just trying to really, it's I think that's cool. I can't wait to see this when it dries and the paper lays down flat. Okay, I think I'm okay with that, and I think they help push our little bush out. So we have our little bush. I'm gonna give it a second to dry. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I want to do before I pour off the masking fluid? I think I want to dry everything now and then roll off the masking fluid, start working on the birch trees so that they come forward. And then that'll allow me to see if I need to do anything else to the background. Or if I just want to kind of leave it like this. I don't know. What I do know is I'm going to grab a little of that, blend it in up top. See if I can blend it down. I didn't mean to make it that strong right there in that section, but okay. I think maybe I'll put some, I don't know, would cattails be back there? Would that even make sense? I don't know if that would make sense. No, like I'm seriously designing this as I go. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We may revisit that bridge and something else may end up back there. Maybe little flowers here on the front or something. I don't know. I don't know yet. My sky is a little light for me right there. So I'm gonna grab, and I don't normally suggest messing with your sky after you finished it, but I'm gonna grab a really watery wash of that primary blue and see if I can sneak it in down to my horizon. Now I gotta pull back out that cloud that was right there. All right, that I feel better about that. Okay, I think I want to put a little bit more color on my ground here. I'm really just gonna water down that original wash that I made to go in. I'm just gonna brush color, another layer of color on. It shouldn't disturb what's already down. If it's watery enough, if it's light enough, and you move quick enough, you want to just glaze because you're glazing to be a color. You don't want to scrub because scrubbing will lift. And I'm just glazing to build some more color. Feel like it needs a little bit more saturation up front. I don't know. This may turn out halfway decent before it's all said and done. I'm going to go ahead and dry this Hopefully there's not going to be too much of a shift. And then we'll move on. So at this point, I think I want to roll off the gum, and I have my fingers crossed that this is going to go well. I normally don't use masking fluid for a lot of reasons, mainly because I never really have. Oh, well, let me not speak too soon. Don't normally have the best of luck with this stuff, but this particular brand, this is the second time I've used it, and this brand has proven me wrong both times. Look at that. Came out so smooth. Absolutely love that. All right. That's one. Finishing your fireplace. I'm still working on my fireplace too, Marianne. It's yeah, yeah. I use watercolors for the base layer, and then I'm doing everything else in color pencil. So it's taking a minute. I'll be done with it for the end of the month. And I'm not doing another one in complete color in color pencils. I may use, color pencils as accent for another one where I like where I like use them as a top layer just to add like a little oomph here and there. But basically my suitcase is a color pencil piece that I just happen to use watercolors for the first layer. Caught myself trying to make it quicker by using watercolors for the first layer, but because it's the cheap art challenge and I'm using some economical color pencils to do it, yeah, I'm trying to make as little work on the pencil end as possible. All right, that went so much more smoothly than I thought it was gonna go. I'm becoming less and less of a hater of masking fluid. In this case, this particular masking fluid. Okay, let's knock these birch trees out. I'm switching over to a flat brush. Watch how quick we put these in. Now, most of you who have seen me do birch trees before probably already know the technique I'm going to use, which is why I haven't put my credit card scraper up. But we're going to knock these out so quick. I just need to find the right flat brush that I want to use. I want something that's not going to hold too much water, but I don't have to like dip every 2 seconds either. Let's see. What's over here? Sure, there's something somewhere. Okay, I don't know. That's kind of small. All right, I'm gonna go for a synthetic squirrel. I really would prefer a golden Teclon or a nylon brush to do this, but we'll go for the synthetic squirrel, and we are going to actually be using the bowl. Do I want to use the black or do I want to mix? We're going to use the black because I don't really feel like going through mixing a brown. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, mixing the black because I have to mix the brown first. So let's see. Where can I put it? I'll just put it here. I think this is black anyway. I'm gonna start off with a really thin, watery black. I mean, we mean watery, okay? However, this is gouache. So add a little bit more pigment to it, and you're gonna get a stronger strength, although it's still water. All right. Next step. Base in the tree you're starting with water. You don't want puddles, just like you're doing a sky. You want a nice layer of sheen. Keep in mind what direction tree bark runs in with what we're about to do. Now we need to decide where our light is coming from because we really haven't put down any major dark color. Starting with this tree is going to really be the first time we're putting down major dark colors. So we need to figure out our light source. I'm thinking it's coming this way, which means my shadows will be that way. All right, let's start with this one here. We have that wet. We're taking a watery wash of our black here, which should be gray. And we are going to go down the shadow side of our birch tree. Okay. I'm trying to control, because it is really watery, so it'll flow a little bit. And I'm just going to pull that in a little bit. While it's wet, I'm going to go ahead and grab my credit card scraper. And basically what I'm doing at this point is putting in the texture that you see on a birch tree. I'm not really worried about anything other than the shape of the tree. As I draw, as I put in these scrapes, I'm remembering that this tree is round. Okay. So I want my texture to go around the tree. I'm remembering that it's papery and that the papery feel sometimes tears off. When I get to my branches, I'm remembering that they are round so that the direction of the actual striations would go around the branch in the shape of the branch. All right. And don't you worry, we're going to get to more, but that's going to be how our base starts. Absolutely. I am waiting that now. It's going to kind of blend out all the color. And we can go in and put in a little bit more darkness on the outer side. And this is another reason I like using a flat brush. It helps to make this really easy. It's just kind of natural for a lot of things in landscapes, I believe. Although this is not your most realistic landscape. Now what I'm doing is putting in lighter marks up the opposite side of the tree and this side of the branch. Although the other side will still be much darker because their branches are almost like black looking sometimes, especially the smaller ones. Okay, I feel like I've gotten too much color on the lighter side, so I'm gonna grab that round brush, rinse the water out of it. Rinse paint out of it if I have any. Use my paper towel, pour all of the water out, and then I'm going down what should be the light side and see if I can pull up some of that paint. It's not quite working the way I want, so I'm going to use my paper towel just to make sure And we'll work on that one some more in a minute. Let's move on to another one. Let's give that a little bit time to dry. All right, and let's wet this next one. Now, I do think this paper kind of helps contribute to this. It's sort of a coloring page, sort of overall whimsy type feel that's going to end up being with this. All right, let's grab some of that dark we made, and we're going to start dropping it in on the shadow side of the tree, letting the wetness that we put down from the water do the rest. Although, like I say, we're talking gouache, so you may have to hip it out a little bit. And this section is going to be the cutest to work out once we actually get to the next step. And let's see. This is gonna be like that. And I'm even gonna go ahead and put a little on this end of this one because that part of the tree is like behind that branch. So, all right, I'm grabbing a scraper here and I am going to time. Only rule is to remember that my tree is round. That's the only rule. I'm actually gonna cut in that divide between those trees. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. That's what makes it so fun. And at the end of it, regardless, you're gonna get a birch tree. That's what's so cool about this. All right, there we go. Okay. And you may notice I slant my paper a lot. I turn my paper so that it's comfortable for me to paint. Now, I always encourage you guys to do the same. Okay. I think we can let that one dry too. Come back and build saturation on it in a minute. Let's knock out the last one. Then we'll get our little bush in the back and dry. And then we'll put on final touches. It'll be a quick, little cute birch tree illustration that you can try and you can, turn into a card, turn into sketchbook cover like I'm going to, whatever suits your fancy. And if you went for realism with yours, then maybe it's something that you want to hang or display. All right, here we go. Let's get this last bad baby did and done. Did and done. All right, let's see. Do not disturb. I'm sure it probably went quiet for a second. I forgot to turn on do not disturb, so I have people they're trying to call me to confirm I'm gonna be at the doctor's appointment. I just need them to just know I'm gonna be there. It's okay. I'm coming. And at this point, I'm just kind of trying to blend out any harsh lines. All right. And let's put in just a few darker spots. This one didn't seem to have, like I said, it's a little bit more lit up based on the position that it's in. All right, and then let's base in this tree back here so we can dry it and move on. I'm gonna put a little bit more. We'll use that same color that we used for the base in our background, but I actually need that to be much thicker. I don't need to use that like watercolor. I need to use it more like gouache. So I'm putting water out here and just using the gouache because I need to layer here. Okay, I'm grabbing yellow, mixing it directly into the top of that. I don't know how I feel about that. Use some of that darker green. I think I'll be able to put a little bit more texture on that once that dries. Hello, Terry. Happy Monday. All right, let's put in, I'm using that same darker color from the tree line, and we are going to just put in some streaks here in the grass. We are going to be putting, I'm just putting in darker spots. We are going to be putting in some shadow before it's all said and done. So I have grass is being pulled up from right there. Again, that's why I'm making the bases like they are. Okay, let's yeah, let's dry this and then we can finish it up. Let's wrap this up. I'm getting a number two round. This is a nylon, and I'm making a different photo of my black. I actually mixed it in with that green. I don't really care. Any color on my palette at this point is subject to be used for any given thing. All right, let's go in here and birch trees first. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just kind of making indications. Um, some little weird knots or some stuff might be on it. I'm not looking at a birch tree, so I'm pulling this from imagination. So no judgment. And kind of go up this way. It'll be a little darker here on the outer rim. And then you'd have a little kind of, because the branches are really kind of like dark. If you've ever paid attention to a birch tree branch, it's really kind of dark, in all honesty. And I'm just, hold on, let me plug up the iPad so the chat won't die. I'm gonna have some editing to do to this one. All right, let's get back in here. But yeah, so the branches are actually rather dark for some reason. Never really truly understood. All right. And at this point, I'm just adding in that papery texture that makes a birch a birch. And ironically enough, that black has been diffused with green, and you can see the green in what I'm doing, which I think is so cool, actually. But it's still adding the contrast that I need. I feel like, do you guys feel like I need Okay, that'll kind of deal with dividing those off. I'm moving as quick as I can, friends, I promise. And just kind of hidden or missing here. I think it's gonna make a cute sketchbook cover. All right, and I feel like it needs a little bit more saturation in some of these. Yes, like some of this needs to be just a little darker. Kind of playing around here, but it's actually like super dark. All right, that I'm more okay with. Let's knock this other one out real quick. You don't have to be as detailed, or you can be even more detailed than I am. Whatever the case may be, it is your birch tree, it is your painting, it is your artistic expression. Maybe you're looking at a reference photo, so yours is probably going to be a lot more realistic than mine will be. But then realism is not what I'm shooting for, as I stated from the beginning. This is supposed to be a whimsical sketchbook cover that kind of shows artistic expression about how a subject should look. And I'm just having fun. I put in physical texture, now I'm putting in paint texture. It's kind of hitting and missing where I think it needs to be. I'm not holding myself to too much seriousness, but I'm being serious at the same time because it is going to be something that I list. So although it's supposed to be whimsical, I still want it to be believable. All right, I like that. That's cute. Let's move on to another one. Then we can throw branches on and all the good stuff. All right, last one here. And I think I'm gonna leave it. I think I'm gonna put some branches on it here and there. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do about leaves just yet, or if I'm gonna do leaves, or how I feel about that just yet. Now you're not thrifty, so you don't have to do things the way thrifty doing. You're doing the way you're doing. Make it fit your aesthetic. I just like the way to over exaggerate like the craziness of birch trees. I don't live in an area where there are birch trees. Every birch tree I've ever seen is has been online. Um, I don't recall ever seeing one in person, but I absolutely love to call myself painting them. Okay, for me that's good. That's for a book that's good. Okay, let's put in some branches. Then we'll put in some shadow on the ground and some grasses around things. And then we'll reassist and see if we need anything from there. So let's put in a branch there. And then maybe there's one that hangs off over this way. Um, he'll start here and he kind of comes off of like that. Why not? Over here. Here, come off the front. Because you will have your branches coming off every angle, right? Tree is circular all the way around. You won't just have your branches coming from like the left and the right. You would have branches kind of everywhere. And so, you can put them on the front of your tree. You can put them on the side of your tree. Uh, and just because it's on that side doesn't mean it's coming off that side. Maybe it shoots off that side like that, just like that one did. And then that one's long because it comes back out that way and it starts right here. And I don't know, like, just don't be scared to experiment and play things. I don't know how much sense that makes, but I feel like it makes pretty good sense. So let's move on and do some on the other side. Here. I feel like you want to be a branch. And, ooh, this spot is already dark, so I would definitely think it wants to be a branch that goes all off the paper. I don't care. And let's see. Maybe a branch coming this way. Here, start there. You can go that way. And let's put another one right here. You can go that way. Out the paper too. All right, I'm good with that. Maybe I need another one right here. Trying to come up like that, but it would still be in the front of that tree. hmm Might put some leaves everywhere too. Don't know yet. I don't know. Might need some trees. Okay, where else do we want to go? Where else? I feel like it needs more color. So, what are some big things with color that I can put in it? Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. I want to brighten it up. We got the reds in the front. We could put some grasses in the front. I don't want to do that yet. You know what? Let's put some grasses around the trees, right? Right? Yeah. And then we can turn those into some flowers. So let's use some mass tone green here. And we're gonna stick with the yellow. Let's put that in. All right. And then let's start with this one. No, I like to paint this way. So let's start here. And we're gonna have really thin grasses coming up from in front of this. And I'm just using the tip of my brush. We are using gouache, so it'll lay down just fine. You can even like put a little puddle just to make it thick. Now, if you want to use a credit card scraper right here, you can. I'm not going to because I want to show you that you can get the texture without having to like use that card, of course. But if you wanted to use a card, you could, and it would not be a big deal. And I'm just laying down a lighter grass around it first. You know, maybe some grass blades kind of sticking up over here too. Why not? Um, and then there's gonna be some back here around my guy. Okay, just mixing in that yellow, keeping it pretty kind of bright lit right now. Just kind of get that color around down on the bottom of that. Because we definitely want to make those trees look like, they're anchored into the ground. Okay. And I feel like that could be a little thicker. Like that. Oh, yeah. That's nice. Give me a little bit more. Saturate the color there. Here, let's put this one in to make it more substantial. Okay. And then we'll, just for kicks, we'll add a little bit more of that over here too. And it can't look weird, so we'll add some. I kind of got to like add them in some up everywhere. Don't want it to look weird. All right, let's see. Antonia, let's go with our darker green now and get some of that in here. I'm just using a darker mix we've already made. No need to, reinvent the wheel. Just grab that darker mix and start throwing you in some grasses amongst the lighter ones you already put in. It just helps to bring it out more. Variety of color. I like that. All right. And just, yeah, just have fun with it. Here, let's put some around that tree. I hadn't originally planned on doing it, but let's put some around that little shrub too. Kind of tie it in a little bit more. All right. Now what we need to do? Do I want some more color? I'm just testing something out here. I'm seeing how it would look if I had like those burgundy grasses in the background. It's really gonna turn them black because basically I'm mixing in that red, but it's also gonna add some depth back there, I think. Yeah, I think I like that. So basically I'm streaking in that primary red and it's gonna mix with the green and neutralize, but you're still gonna have some red variation in there. I think I like the way that's going, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Yes, I normally do this in a creation station, this type of experimenting where I'm not really knowing what I'm gonna do. I'm just kind of pulling something out of my head or But I normally do it in a creation station. So if you've ever wondered the type of foolishness we get ourselves in over there, it's something like this all the time. Something just experimentational. All right. I think I'm okay with that. And I think I'm okay here. Let's actually have a few, excuse me, longer back there. Just a little bit. All right. I had to check on my Amazon order. It's still out for delivery. It's 125. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and start wrapping up, friends. But I like that. Let's bring some of that into the foreground. So I'm going to just use that primary red and base in a flower or some sort like that. Maybe another one over here. I'm not really trying to, just kind of putting four dots in a circle. I promise you it's gonna work like this, like this, and like that, and like this, and yeah, I'll put another one there. I like the way they look up here in the front. I can put a little dab of yellow in the middle of them once they dry. If I just, if I'm just really that concerned. That one's kind of tall, so I'm not quite sure what type of flower, what type of flowers these are going to be. But they're red and they gold because we've been using this color in the background, so it's going to be interesting. Mm. So sometimes you just have to, let your imagination run wild. Don't worry about a reference photo or anything like that. And then, of course, when I'm doing sketchbooks, I love to kind of keep it like, I'm not going to say imaginary, but definitely coming from me, from my heart. That way, everything is definitely hand designed, if that makes any sense. Maybe I can put a few yellow ones in there too. Or maybe there's some like yellow flowers on the bush back there. Maybe it's got like little yellow something on it. And then the red ones are kind of in front of it. I don't know. I'm just saying. Okay. I think that makes sense at least. All right. Let's wrap this up and put. Do I want a couple of the like yellow flowers? I mean, that'd be cute, huh? Like maybe a yellow flower here too. Yeah, it'll definitely make the whole what I painted in. See, I don't know how well you can see those yellow ones, but I'm gonna put a few of them here and there, wherever I think they'll stand out the most. I'm gonna stick one in. And if you notice, I haven't really put any stems on those flowers. I'm kind of letting the, Your imagination from the black grass blades do it. If I had one that's just kind of standing too far off on its own, I'll just, use just a little green to hint at a stem. But yeah, they're in the grass, so the stems are kind of already there for them. Okay. I don't think I want to do any leaves on a birch tree. I never do. I think that's cool. I think that'll serve as a nice background for a journal cover. And then, of course, I'll build stuff on top of that. All right, I'm going to dry it and then I'm going to start to black it out because the sides are going to wrap around to the inside of the journal and I don't need that to be white either. All right, let's put in a little shadow right quick. I'm going to use that black mixture that I was using the black mixture that I was using for the trees that had a little bit of green in it. Yeah, the light is that way. The light is coming this way, so all of this was shadow. Over here, we would have shadow over this way for this tree. And yeah, I think that's all I want to do. Put a little shadow back here. This tree has a little bit, not too much. It's really watery what I'm doing. I didn't want to make too big of an impact on the overall picture. Okay, I'm going to use my marker as I normally do to outline everything. Now, this is not something that is mandatory to do. This is something I do. I think I've seen a couple of other artists do it. I know Chris Petrie will do this sometimes. I normally don't use an alcohol marker, but in this case, it's what was handy, so it's what I grabbed. And you will get to see the type of effect it adds in just a second. All right, let's get this tape off. It's 1:30. Okay, good. I'm making good time. Let's get this tape off. There you go, friends. Quick little birch tree landscape that you can do at your leisure. Grab your supplies, go back and watch. Keep in mind the edits for this video will be done tomorrow. So in the next day or two, the edit version will be ready. So it'll be just the illustrating part minus all of the talking and chit chatting. Oh, well, I literally tore my paper just then. That's okay. Thank goodness that's the part that wraps around to the inside and will be covered. But you do want to try to prevent tearing your paper if you can. Sometimes using your heat tool to heat your tape up before you remove it is going to help with all of that. I typically don't have a problem with this tape, which is why I didn't do that. But it seems to be catching everything today. All right, there you have it. There is our little illustration for today that will turn into um, a journal cover. Okay, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed, picked up on, saw something between the review and the demo that you liked. If you did and you're here already, don't forget to sprinkle a little love and give the video a thumbs up. You can follow in the steps of view and share if you want to, because sharing is caring and it'll help get more eyes on the channel. Algorithm help me out. Um, if you're watching in replay, same thing. Don't forget to drop a little love. Don't forget you can leave your comments in the questions in the comment section, and I will get back to answering them as soon as I possibly can. Patreon tonight at 8 p.m. We will be going live in the Creation Station. So if you're a Creation Station member, I do hope to see you there. If you're new to this channel or you're returning and you haven't subscribed, please do consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you'll know when we go live and when we upload. Lives are every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, unless something changes. And video releases are every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, and Fridays as needed to drop a product review. And it also comes out at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can follow the Thrifty Apprentice on Facebook, Instagram, definitely Instagram. Check out the Thrifty Cheap Art Challenge if you haven't. Follow on Instagram. I'm really trying to build over there. And you can also check out Paint, Pencils, Pastels, and Markers, which is the Thrifty Apprentice sponsored Facebook group, which I'm really feeling like it's time for me to do some cleanup in that group, maybe. I don't really see much engagement. It has over 2,000 members, but there's not much engagement. Every now and then you'll get a question, and then you'll have the same people that kind of, um, but I don't see much engagement. So maybe some of those accounts that joined at some point 3 or 4 years ago are dead accounts and they don't work anymore, they don't exist anymore. But I just really need to go through and start doing some membership cleanup inside that group. But it's a wonderful place for new and experienced artists of all levels, no matter what medium you use. It's a great place to kind of exchange ideas, ask questions. I'm always posting some type of link to something. So yeah, check it out. Anything else I wanted to cover? I'm gonna try not to give any more blood, Eleanor. Hopefully, the only thing, hopefully, I'm doing is getting results. Um, And hopefully that's the only thing I'm doing. I don't know. My arm is actually still really sore. Even a week later, I still have some tendency. It's really tender uh, from where the needle was inserted. And I've given blood before, but I've always given blood. Every time I've ever given blood, I don't know if it's just weird and me, the doctors I went to, but they use this thing I call a butterfly needle. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but it's like this needle that they draw your blood with, and it's got like these two butterfly wings on it, butterfly looking things on it. And when they're done drawing the blood, they like clip it together and it snaps the needle, and it's like so quick. And I don't know. This last time I gave it, this particular place used a really different type of needle that I'm used to. And I mean, it's one that you use to draw blood, but I don't know. She had to hold it, and it's almost like she was pressing down on it. I don't know. I'm just no blood today. My arm has been sore for a week. No blood today. None. Facebook group is called Paints, Pencils, Pastels, and Markers. Paints, Pencils, Pastels, and Markers. That's the name of the Facebook group. And that was to Jam Rock who asked the question. All right, anything else? Check out the Defiant Art website again, where you can find a lot of information on Thrifty Cheap Art Challenge, as well as if you are a beginner to watercolor, the Thrifty Defiant Arts website, defiantarts.com, actually has really good technique videos for beginners on there. And even if you're a beginner, like sketchbook creator, there's a video over there that kind of walks you through that as well. Yeah. So trying to think anything else. The video description will have the most recommended product list in case you want to check that out. And it'll also have the artist wish list in case you decide that's the way you would like to sponsor the studio, the channel, or the company. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining me. Go out, enjoy your week. Patreon, I'll see you tonight. The rest of you guys, I'll see you Wednesday for the pre-recorded release. In the meantime, remember, as I always tell you at the end of every video, I artsy love you and just keep creating, friends.